Series 8 of modern Doctor Who was not met with a lot of praise. It was fresh off the heels of the regeneration of Matt Smith as the 11th Doctor, and many newer fans found it jarring for the lead role to be replaced by someone so, well, different. Peter Capaldi's take on the Doctor was drastically different than Matt Smith's. Gone were the overly expressive flappy hands, childlike amusement with the world, and the goofy optimistic demeanor. 12 was grumpy, brooding, fierce, and kind of a jackass. And a lot of people love that about him. In fact, most fans of the show will agree, even if they didn't like his run as the Doctor, that Peter Capaldi was the best actor to ever take on the role. But I think 12's tenure is greater than that. Not only is Peter Capaldi the best cast Doctor of them all, but his story was also the most well written. Let me explain. So first, I want to describe a fan theory about the show. I personally believe in it, and if you do as well, I think it makes for a better viewing experience. That said, it's not integral for this video to make sense. See, I believe that whenever the Doctor regenerates, the way his new body looks is affected by his subconscious thoughts. So let's do a little rundown to show my point. The Ninth Doctor died right after realizing he was in love with Rose. So his next incarnation was young, handsome, and more emotional. He was perfectly suited to being a human's romantic partner. When 10 regenerated, he was upset that he was dying. He knew that this was the last of his regenerations, and so he had to make the most out of what he could. He became young and vibrant and full of life. The best way to enjoy what little bit was left of his life. When 11 was regenerating, he was upset about the number of people he had to watch die. He spent 700 years on Trenzalore, protecting citizens and watching them perish in the surrounding struggle. And of course, he was missing his best friend, the fiery Scottish Amelia Pond. So, he regenerated into someone Scottish, who was cold and distant, as not to be hurt by loss anymore. He was averse to affection because he was guarding his heart. We know that there is at least a little truth to this theory. As we see in the Series 9 story, The Girl Who Died, the Doctor subconsciously picked his current face as a way to remind himself to always try and save those who seem lost. It would stand to reason that his subconscious is in control of the other attributes of his regeneration, aside from appearance, right? Well, let's go with this idea. At the beginning of Series 8, the Doctor is grumpy and emotionally distant. He's having a bit of an identity crisis. This is shown by what he keeps asking himself.
Tell me, am I a good man?
This is likely due to some of the weirdness associated with being on an entirely new regeneration cycle. Anyway, the Doctor is now verbally abrasive and hard to deal with. It's the defense mechanism he's put in place in order to protect himself from forming strong connections with people, so his heart doesn't get broken again. But in trying to understand this new personality and why he's currently acting the way he is, the Doctor learns something very important about himself.
I'm not a bad man. I am not a hero. I'm definitely not a president. And no, I'm not an officer. You know what I am? I am an idiot.
12 learns that he should stop holding himself to some unidentifiable standard, to stop judging his actions against some nebulous moral metric, and simply do his best. It's at this point that he's accepted himself. He's okay with being the 12th Doctor now, and he can actually start to enjoy his life again. And that's exactly what happens. Come Series 9, the Doctor is back with an absolutely fantastic intro. He's goofy, and he's fine with it. Gone is any boring posturing about morality. Here to stay is a Doctor that exists to have fun and help people. That's it. Unfortunately for the Doctor, because he's managed to shirk his stoic persona, this also means that he begins to make connections again. He grows closer to Clara this season, much closer. They become the best of friends. And this also happens to be about the same time that, well, he loses her. Clara dies by facing the Raven, and it sends the Doctor into a rampage. He's smart enough to understand exactly why his subconscious imposed his personality upon him. He's smart enough to know how hard it was to grow past that personality into a kinder and more open person. And he's smart enough to know how big of a mistake it was to do so. And now he's pissed. It takes an impassioned speech from his best friend in order to convince him to move on, and even then he required part of his memories to be wiped. This changed the Doctor. Let me repeat, this changed the Doctor. He had experienced real, gut-wrenching loss, and that was only possible because of his personal growth thus far. This made the Doctor much kinder and more understanding of those around him. This is the peak of evolution, the end of his arc. The Doctor has become the fully realized version of this incarnation at this point, and we get to witness him in action in Series 10. He is clearly expressing the lessons he has learned over the past 2 series. He's still a goofball who enjoys dressing like a rock star grandpa because he knows not to take himself too seriously. He's kind, understanding, and compassionate because he knows the pain of loss and it affects the way he treats those around him. This Doctor is likable and kind. He's a teacher, like his lost friend Clara, and he spends his time teaching 2 people. First, Bill, his actual student in the university she's attending, but also his student through the stars. He shows her the universe like he does with every other companion, because he's still the Doctor. He may have grown, but he will always be the madman with a box. The second person he takes a teaching role over is Missy, his oldest friend, who he has battled against hundreds of times over millennia, the same master responsible for the deaths of millions, including some people close to the Doctor. It is only at this point in the Doctor's life that he's become kind enough to give up his adventurous ways and devote himself to watching Missy. Well, for the most part. He's accepted his role as a well-meaning idiot and plans to stick around till the end to help her reach some of the same life-changing conclusions he has. This is not something that the Doctor of Series 8 would have done. And so, even though it takes some time, the Doctor actually manages to break through to her. She has a bit of a stumble after being confronted by her former self on the Cyberman ship, but she eventually finds her way in what the Doctor has taught her. She chooses to leave behind her selfish ways and go help the passengers struggling to flee. Now, the most tragic part is, the Doctor never gets to know this. While Missy kills the Master in an attempt to let herself escape, she gets shot in the back, and never gets to tell her friend that she finally decided to listen to him. The tragedy compounds as the Doctor's heartbreak only begins to multiply. He failed to keep Bill safe, and now she's become a Cyberman, something he cannot fix. His oldest friend, whose soul he was so close to saving, has decided to turn back to her evil ways and betray him. He's unable to stop the evolution of the Cybermen or save the people trapped on this ship. He is utterly defeated. This is the consequence of the Doctor breaking through his gruff exterior. The truth of the matter is, the reason 12 was so much tougher and more distant than every other Doctor was because underneath it all, he had the softest heart yet. Not a single incarnation before him made the same types of human connections he could. It's the reason 12 was the Doctor to become the hybrid. He was the only one emotionally vulnerable enough to bond with another person like that. And he is willing to die here because of this. He just keeps losing people. No matter how hard he tries, he can't save them. But when he awakens for his final adventure, a couple interesting things happen. He is able to save the Brigadier's father. He gets reminded of exactly how far he's come since his first regeneration, how many lives he's saved, and how many hearts he's touched, and how much more growing he still has yet to do. All of this culminates in his final decision as this version of the Doctor, to continue living. He chooses kindness over solemn loneliness, because no matter how much it may hurt sometimes, he is needed out in that great big universe. A lot of things were probably swimming around in the Doctor's mind as he regenerated. Bill and how she got her happy ending, Clara, his best friend who he can finally remember again, and Missy, his oldest friend who, as far as he knows, never learned to be kind. If he were in the Master's position, he would do his best to be compassionate. Imagine that, Missy being kind. How great would it be if there were a compassionate time lady running around and saving the universe. 12 didn't have the same big emotional send-off as 10, or the massive multi-series arc wrap-up of 11. A lot of people look down on his era of Doctor Who because of it, but I think what he had was even better. He had character development. It wasn't big or flashy, but it was real, and it was heartfelt, and that's what sets him apart as my favorite Doctor. Who is your favorite Doctor, and why? Let me know down in those comments. I put a lot of work into this video, so I'd really appreciate it if you left a like, subscribed, or shared this video with another Doctor Who fan. Make sure to let me know if you want more Doctor Who content in the future, because I'd love to make more. That's it for today. Thanks for watching, and remember, stay frosty.